Commander Vex-Nine stood in the pristine white chamber of the Galactic Training Academy, his forearms crossed in what could only be described as barely contained frustration. The neural implant behind his left eye socket pulsed an angry purple, a sure sign that his patient's circuits were overloading. Again. "Cadet Winters," he said, his voice carrying the mechanical precision that all Zephyrians were known for. "You will observe the plasma discharge demonstration and respond accordingly." The human female standing before him didn't even blink. Maya Winters, according to her file, was supposed to be one of Earth's most promising military candidates. She stood at attention, but there was something in her posture that made Vex-Nine's mandibles click nervously. It wasn't defiance exactly, it was worse. It was amusement. "Oh, I'm observing all right," Maya replied, her voice carrying that peculiar human inflection that the translation software always struggled with. Sarcasm, the humans called it. "Please proceed with your demonstration." Vex-Nine raised his primary weapon, a state-of-the-art plasma rifle that could vaporize a small building. The Academy had spent 3 standard cycles perfecting this training protocol. Show the primitive species superior firepower. Establish dominance, then proceed with indoctrination. Simple, effective. He aimed at the floor just inches from Maya's boots, and fired. The plasma bolt struck the reinforced flooring with a brilliant flash, leaving a smoking crater the size of a dinner plate. The acrid smell of superheated metal filled the air. Every other species they'd trained had either flinched, stepped back, or shown some appropriate sign of submission at this point. Maya looked down at the smoking hole, then back up at Vex-Nine with raised eyebrows. "Was that supposed to hit something?" she asked conversationally. "Because if you were aiming for my feet, your accuracy needs work." The neural implant behind Vex-Nine's eye began pulsing faster. "This wasn't in the manual. None of this was in the manual. The demonstration," he said through gritted teeth, "was meant to show you the consequences of insubordination." Maya nodded sagely. "So you missed on purpose then? Got it." From the observation deck above, General Thex Prime watched the exchange with growing bewilderment. The Galactic Council had assured him that humans were a primitive species, barely capable of spaceflight, let alone military strategy. Their psychological profiles indicated they should be easily intimidated by superior technology. So why was this one human making his best instructor look like an amateur? "Perhaps," the Gex Prime spoke through the intercom, "we should proceed to Phase 2 of the demonstration." Vex-Nine nodded gratefully. Phase 2 involved multiple plasma discharges in a complex pattern around the subject. No species had ever failed to show proper submission after Phase 2. He began firing, creating a ring of smoking craters around Maya's position. The air shimmered with heat. The sound was deafening. Any rational being would have dropped to their knees by now. Maya stood perfectly still, watching each shot with what appeared to be professional interest. When the firing stopped, she turned in a slow circle, examining the pattern of blast marks. "Not bad," she said finally, "though your spacing is a bit inconsistent. The shot at 2 o'clock was about 3 degrees off from optimal positioning." Vex-Nine's weapon arm began to shake. You're analyzing my marksmanship?" "Well, someone has to." Maya shrugged. "If this is supposed to be intimidating, you might want to work on your technique. Back home, we call this kind of display spray and pray." In the observation deck, the Chris Prime's breathing apparatus began working overtime. Something was very, very wrong here. He activated his communication device. "Vex-Nine, initiate Protocol 7. Now." Protocol 7 was reserved for the most stubborn subjects. It involved activating the chamber's gravity manipulation system, increasing local gravity to 3 times normal. Most species couldn't even remain standing under such conditions. The chamber hummed as the gravity generators engaged. Vex-Nine felt his own body growing heavier, his movements becoming sluggish. Through the viewing port, Thex Prime could see other instructors struggling to remain upright as the artificial gravity affected even the observation area. Maya Winters didn't even seem to notice. She did, however, start laughing. "Oh, this is precious," she said, still standing casually with her hands clasped behind her back. "You're trying to increase gravity, aren't you? What did you set it to, 2G? 3? 3.5, Vex-Nine gasped, struggling to keep his weapon raised. "Cute." Maya began walking around the chamber, her footsteps echoing normally, despite the crushing gravitational field. "You know where I come from, we call this Tuesday morning PT." She paused near one of the plasma scorch marks, and crouched down to examine it more closely. Under 3.5 times normal gravity, without apparent effort. "Honestly, I'm starting to wonder if you folks have ever actually met a human before," she continued, standing back up with fluid grace. Because if this is your idea of intimidation, you're going to be in for a rude awakening when you meet the rest of my species. Vex Prime felt something he hadn't experienced in over 2 decades of military service. Fear. Real, primal fear. Shut down the demonstration, he commanded. Sir? Vex-Nine looked confused. But we haven't established dominance yet. I said shut it down. The gravity returned to normal, and blessed relief flooded through Vex-Nine's aching limbs. Maya, meanwhile, looked almost disappointed. That's it? She asked. I was just starting to enjoy myself. Fortpive descended to the training floor, his ceremonial robes rustling as he approached the human. Up close, she looked even less impressive. Shorter than the average Zephyrian, with no visible natural weapons, no armored hide, no enhanced musculature. How was this possible? Explain yourself, he demanded. What are you? Maya tilted her head, considering the question. Well, that's a bit existential, isn't it? I mean, philosophically speaking, aren't we all just... What are you? Vex Prime's voice rose to a dangerous pitch. Oh, right. Maya's grin was absolutely predatory. I'm a human, from Earth. You know that little backwater planet you've been planning to conquer for the past 6 months? The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. Vex Prime's breathing apparatus stuttered. You know about the invasion plans? Of course we know. Maya's laugh was rich with genuine mirth. Did you really think we wouldn't notice a fleet of warships massing at the edge of our solar system? What do you take us for, idiots? She began walking around the 2 Zephyrians in a slow circle, like a predator sizing up prey. Here's the thing about humans, she continued conversationally. We're not actually as primitive as your intelligence report suggested. We've been watching you watch us for quite some time now. Learning, adapting, preparing. Impossible, Vex-Nine protested. Our stealth technology is centuries ahead of anything your species possesses. Your stealth technology, Maya corrected, works great against energy-based detection systems. Unfortunately for you, humans have this nasty habit of using multiple sensing methods simultaneously. We spotted your ships with good old-fashioned optical telescopes about 3 weeks ago. The implications hit Vex Prime like a physical blow. If the humans had detected the fleet, if they'd been preparing. The training program, he said slowly. You volunteered for this. Bingo. Maya's smile widened. Gold star for the general. Yes, I volunteered. Someone had to come find out what we were dealing with. Someone had to see just how advanced your military training really is. She gestured around the chamber with obvious disdain. I have to say, I'm not impressed. If this is the best you can do, my species is going to eat you alive. You're bluffing, Vex Prime snarled. 1 human against the entire Galactic Council? You're outnumbered 1,000,000,000 to 1. Maya's expression grew serious for the first time since the demonstration began. When she spoke, her voice carried a quiet intensity that made both Zephyrians take an involuntary step backward. You know what the really funny thing is? She said softly. You actually think numbers matter. She pulled a small device from her uniform pocket. Something that looked almost innocuous. Almost. This is a quantum communicator, she explained, holding it up. Standard issue for human military personnel. It's been broadcasting everything that's happened here directly to Earth Command. Vex Prime's neural implants began flashing in emergency patterns. Broadcasting? Through our shielding? Your shielding works on known frequencies, Maya replied. Ours works on principles your science hasn't discovered yet. Has to do with quantum entanglement and a few other things that would probably give your physicists headaches. She pressed a button on the device, and it emitted a soft chime. That was the signal, she announced cheerfully. Operation Surprise Party is now officially a go. Both Zephyrians stared at her in growing horror. What? Vex Prime asked in a voice that had gone completely flat. Is Operation Surprise Party? Maya's grin returned in full force. Well, remember that fleet of yours? The one sitting at the edge of our solar system thinking it's all sneaky and invisible? Turns out, when you know exactly where someone is, and you have really big railguns, she let the sentence hang in the air. Outside the academy, klaxons began to wail. The emergency klaxons screamed through the academy like banshees announcing the end of the world, which from Vex Prime's perspective might have been an accurate description. Report, he barked into his communication device, his voice cracking with barely controlled panic. Static filled the channel before a trembling voice responded. General, we're receiving distress signals from the entire perimeter fleet. Something is they're being destroyed. Systematically. Maya Winters examined her fingernails with casual indifference. Oh good, they started without me. I was worried I'd miss the show. Vex-Nine's weapon clattered to the floor as his hands began shaking uncontrollably. This is impossible. Our shields can withstand anything your primitive weapons can produce. Primitive? Maya raised an eyebrow. That's adorable. Tell me, what's the maximum velocity your shields are designed to deflect? Class 7 plasma bursts travel at approximately 12,000 kilometers per second. Thex Prime replied automatically, his military training overriding his shock. Maya nodded thoughtfully. Right, energy weapons. Very civilized. Very predictable. She paused, studying their horrified expressions. Our railguns fire tungsten rods at roughly 30% the speed of light. That's about 90 million kilometers per second, for those keeping score. The color drained from Thex Prime's face, turning his usual green complexion a sickly yellow. But the energy requirements alone. Vex-Nine stammered. Oh, energy's not really a problem when you've got fusion reactors the size of city blocks, Maya said cheerfully. Turns out when you think someone's planning to invade your home, you get really creative with industrial applications. Another voice crackled through Thex Prime's communicator, this one openly sobbing. Fleet Command, this is Battlecruiser Dominus. They're not even using energy weapons. It's just chunks of metal. But they're moving so fast our deflectors might as well be made of tissue paper. The Sovereign just disappeared. One moment it was there, the next it was expanding gas and debris. Maya whistled appreciatively. The Sovereign, that was one of your big ones, right? The one with all the intimidating spikes and glowing bits? Yeah, Captain Torres had dibs on that target. She's been practicing for weeks. You're monitoring our communications, the Thex Prime accused weakly. Honey, we're doing a lot more than monitoring. Maya pulled out what looked like a simple tablet and began scrolling through data. Let's see. Battlecruiser Dominus. You mentioned? Captain Yang has that one locked up. Should be. Oh, there we go. She turned the tablet so they could see the tactical display. A green dot labeled Dominus was moving across the screen when suddenly a red line appeared, connecting it to something at the edge of the display. The green dot simply vanished. Direct hit, Maya announced. Yang never misses. It's actually kind of annoying during training exercises. Vex-Nine collapsed into a nearby chair, his forearms hanging limply at his sides. How many ships do you have out there? Ships? Maya laughed so hard she had to wipe tears from her eyes. Oh, that's precious. We're not using ships for this. Well, not in the traditional sense. She gestured to the tablet again, zooming out to show the broader tactical picture. Instead of ship icons, the display showed what looked like stationary platforms scattered throughout the solar system. Those are orbital defense platforms, she explained. We've been building them for months, completely automated, powered by fusion reactors, and each one carries enough tungsten ammunition to level a continent. We built them into asteroids, space stations, even some of our larger satellites. Thex Prime stared at the display in growing horror. There were hundreds of platforms, maybe thousands. But your industrial capacity, the resources required, he protested. You really don't understand humans at all, do you? Maya shook her head in mock disappointment. When we're threatened, we don't just fight back, we mobilize. Every factory on Earth has been retooled for weapons production. Every mining operation in the asteroid belt has been feeding raw materials into our defense grid. We turned our entire civilization into a weapon in about 3 months. The communicator crackled again. General, this is Fleet Admiral Korth aboard the Dominion. We're attempting to retreat, but they've surrounded us. The projectiles are coming from every direction. It's like the entire solar system is shooting at us. That's because it is, Maya said helpfully, leaning toward the communicator. Hi there, Admiral Korth. Maya Winters here. Love your ship's design, by the way. Very dramatic. Shame about what's going to happen to it in about 30 seconds. 30 seconds? Korth's voice rose to a panicked shriek. But we're still negotiating surrender terms. Oh, we're not accepting surrenders today, Maya replied with mock regret. See, the thing is, you came here to conquer us, to subjugate our entire species. That's not really the sort of thing we forgive and forget. She glanced at her tablet again. 20 seconds now. You might want to make peace with whatever gods you believe in. Prime grabbed Maya's arm desperately. Call them off. We'll withdraw. We'll never bother your species again. Maya looked down at his hand on her arm, then back up at his face. Her expression had gone completely cold. Take your hand off me, she said quietly. Now. There was something in her voice that bypassed rational thought and spoke directly to every predator avoidance instinct Lox Prime possessed. He jerked his hand back as if he'd been burned. Better, Maya said, her cheerful demeanor returning instantly. Now, where were we? Oh right, Fleet Admiral Korth's imminent demise. the communicator filled with the sound of screaming metal and explosive decompression. "And that's another one down," Maya announced, checking something off on her tablet. "We're making excellent time. At this rate, we'll have your entire invasion force eliminated within the hour." Vex-Nine was rocking back and forth in his chair, making a low keening sound that the translation software couldn't parse. "This is genocide," Tex Prime whispered. "No," Maya corrected sharply. "Genocide is what you plan to do to us. This is self-defense, with extreme prejudice." She stood up and began pacing around the chamber again, her movements fluid and predatory. "You know what the really ironic part is?" she continued. "We actually tried to contact you peacefully at first. Our diplomats sent messages, requesting dialogue, attempting to establish communication protocols. You ignored every single one. For breathing apparatus was working overtime now." "Because you filtered them out as primitive noise," Maya replied. "Your translation computers couldn't parse human languages properly, so you dismissed our attempts at communication as random electromagnetic chatter. Very advanced of you." The tactical display on her tablet showed fewer and fewer green dots as the minutes ticked by. The red lines kept appearing, connecting the defense platforms to their targets, and one by one the invasion fleet was being systematically erased. "How?" the X-Prime asked desperately. "How did a primitive species develop such advanced weapons?" Maya's grin turned absolutely feral. "That's the thing about humans that your intelligence reports missed," she said. "We're not advanced because we're peaceful. We're not technologically sophisticated because we're civilized. We got this way because we're the most violently creative species in the known galaxy." She gestured around the academy with obvious disdain. "You people have been so superior for so long that you've forgotten what real warfare looks like. Your idea of intimidation is firing warning shots and increasing gravity. Our idea of warfare is turning the entire solar system into a weapon." The last few green dots disappeared from the tactical display. "And there we go," Maya announced. "Total enemy casualties, 100%. Human casualties, 0. Mission accomplished." She turned back to the two stunned Zephyrians with a smile that would have made a shark proud. "Now then, gentlemen, let's talk about the terms of your species' unconditional surrender."